Although this is the last video tutorial for this application, be aware that periodically I may come on to the website and add an additional YouTube video to your list of YouTube videos within your application. So for example, if you went to the Do Action and you went to the support site, you could find out information about the latest changes. And in addition, if you go down to the video help, on a periodic basis you might see a new video added that might add new tips, especially if I have users come in and ask for features or new things that might improve the application. I can come in and let you know what we're doing on the application. Okay, in this particular record, I want to point out on Alex Bond, what we have is he's picked a book that he wants to buy. Now in this case, when I go to the record, it's going to already show the information, so I don't have to put it in and have you watch me type it. But basically, I can go where it says sell the book. This one will take me to the portal for the individual record and show just the information. But sell this book, when I go in there, it opens up the screen where this individual book will be sold. This is book B5, and all the data, when we added it into the we come over here and show you, when we added into the book in stock, a lot of the data when you come in here will all be traveling through the customer data screen and then into the actual screen where we're selling that actual book. So it's not like you have to run all over the place to find the information. There's also a link to the store report sales and also to the sales buyer data. And in this particular case, this is similar to what you saw on the invoice screen, where it shows, in this case, the customer ID that actually is buying the book ID itself that they bought, and the combined combo field that shows all the information. And you can say show that particular one, and it'll take you over to that particular book over here, or you can say go list, and it's going to go to the list of books that were sold in the book selling list. So I can go back in here and say go back to the actual record, and now we're on book B1. This is customer ID 1, and it's Michelle Smith where we created the record for. The date the book was actually sold and the date that it's actually shipped will be in here. Now in this case there's no shipping date, it needs to be added. Obviously if it was somebody that actually sent the book out. Now be aware, I'm going to come back to it, but there is a sales report it will do at the end to show you the sales and how that works. The information that was added, most of the information you see in here will come back from the books in stock. The other things that are not shown or empty would be comments, and all the stuff over here would probably be in there with the exception of the sold book. And I want to show you what happens. If I take this out, it flags in red, and basically what this is telling you that this field needs to be populated when you sell the book. So you need to go back in and put in the number of the actual books sold, and you'll notice that the stock remaining changed from stock quantity of 1 to 1 minus in this particular case. The quantity in stock is put in by you as you're doing this book transaction. If you say that there are no longer any books in stock for that particular book, it doesn't change this, but it will change it when you use the quantity up here. So just in most cases, the book in stock will probably be 1 because we're talking about B1. But this is kind of if you have 2 or 3 of them, you might want to put 2 or 3 in there so you know that you've actually used them. The book stock listing, this is where you can jump right over to the book stock listing for the book you're viewing at the time and make sure if there's any information in here that needs to be edited or changed, and you can kind of compare this to where we're actually working in the actual book we're working on. If something has to be changed, you can change it from here. But be aware, you can actually also, when you're in the book sales, you can edit stuff on this side and it will update over on the actual stock level side. So for example, if I wanted to change the venue, I could, or the publishing date, I could do that, and it would show up on the other side correctly. If I wanted to change the shipping information, it would show that that book shipped, and the information that it was shipped by is down here, would show you the summary of how this is. Now, there's a default one in there, the shipping cost and how you're going to send it, whatever. If you're selling the book and you want to change this based on new information, all you have to do is go in there and change it. In this particular case, it says shipped at cost. So that's the shipping cost. In this case, it says 30 cents, but it could be anything, $3.99, $5.99, whatever the real world number is for shipping books. Shipped using UPS, which is not UPS, USPS, which is the Postal Department. Shipping insurance, you probably want to insure all your books. Now understand, everything that I'm doing here is in addition to the cost of the book. It's going to be charged to the buyer. So when the buyer comes in and he wants to buy a book from you, this is additional fees and charges that are going to be added to it for the shipping. Now if you list it, what you can do is list it in North America. If you live there, you could list it to Canada and or the US. But if you are changing it, say like for example you listed in eBay, you would have to indicate that the shipping cost may change depending on the zip code. And you could probably use the zip code for that particular client from the client information to find that information. Shipping margin, what is that? I'll give you a yes. It's your margin. This is money that you're making from also shipping, which raises the price of the item up to whatever the shipping summary is here. And this particular field up here on tax rate, if they're paying taxes on it and it's not collected by somebody else, say for example, if you're on eBay, who's paying the taxes? Is it included in the listing price? Yes, probably. If it's not and you're selling someplace where they do not include the tax, well, the taxes in most cases, if you're selling from one state and you're selling into the same state, you would have tax. If you don't do that, or you don't have a tax, or your VAT, like in Europe, you would put whatever that is in there, it will calculate the actual tax. Now, if you are buying this application on the iTunes store and you live in a country outside of a place where a dollar sign is included, you can contact the developer and we can manage a change in the actual numeric and field signs for all of the dollar signs. So that this is basically for US, Canada, and other places that use a dollar sign. So be aware that you can have it changed if you need to. Because all these apps are custom apps, the only one that is not changed or edited is the Mac, the Windows, and iTunes. And on iTunes, that would be the iPad and iPhone. Now, if I'm creating a custom app for you and it's on Mac or Windows, they can be customized before it is compiled. So this information can be changed. Okay, let's look at the rest of the information. Basically what we did is we had a purchase cost and a selling price. This is a variable. It will not change as far as the cost was concerned, because whatever you paid for it is what you paid for it. But you can modify the selling price depending on what the market will bear. Like if you're on Amazon and you want to change or be just under the lowest price, that's what you would put in there. And that would calculate over here. For example, it would take the book subtotal, which is the sell price. It would have the shipping sum, which is down here. We would have the margin, which is the 70 cents. And then we'd have the price cost, which is a calculation that is used to figure out what the net income would be on that book. If the book was sold at $2 and you had the costs that are involved up here, then the net cost would, or not net cost, the net sale value back to you would be $1.70. So even though you sold it at $2, you'd have to deduct the $1.10 out of that to see the actual value that you got for selling that book. And it's based on whatever's up here. Now, $1.10 actually is a charge, and the shipping margin is actually coming back to you. So don't confuse. That's why this is income in green and a cost going out. And this is just, like I said, used as a calculation. And also we did the tax. So the book total, if you include sales cost and book shipping, came out to $328. So it's that simple. You might want to rerun this a couple of times. Now you do have the option fee to be added to the sell price if you do not want to add an option fee for a listing fee. Now this is the listing fee. If you don't want to add that in, say like it costs you 30 cents to list it, you can actually, if you put a number in here, a value, that will be back added into the actual value of the book itself at $328. If you leave it blank or you don't put the fee in there at all, then that basic fee without this margin over here for the fee, this listing fee, would not be included. So you have to list it online and have a fee before it is added to the total of the cost of the book sale. Okay, that pretty well fixes it. You should always, once you sell it, put the date in, and then when you ship it, put the date in. This is all information that will come back to you as useful in later days. If, for some reason, you have a book and you want to eliminate it because you say that you're not going to ever sell this book, you can delete the row out of here, and it will take out the book as ever being available again on this area. The final thing we're going to end up by looking at is the sales report. If you go to the sales report, you would be using your find up here to start the find. And what you would do is you would either pick from this field the person's name so that all the records for that person would come up. Then I would use the omit if I wanted to take out any of the records that this person had that were prior billed. And if I wanted to see all of this guy's stuff, it will calculate a sub-summary for the individual. As you see up here, this guy had 2 books, this has 1. And if I scroll down, which I don't have that many books in the book sales, but if I scroll down, if there were more of them, you would see more books and more persons that actually, Michelle and Alex right now are the only ones that have books that have been sold. You can do a find in here very easily. So what you would basically do is start the find and pick either a name or the customer ID or the book ID or a book name. You can do any of these up here to reduce the number of records that you want to see. So for example, if I took Alex and I wanted to see all the books that Alex sold, I would see all the books that he bought. I would see all the information about subtotals and cost and the net that you actually made from the book sale. And then I have the net sales total down here at the bottom. So you can see the net sales actually after the sale, which you made on the book. Also, the information down here in the sub-summary shows the subtotal at $8, a shipping sum of $297, the tax. If you don't charge tax, there'll be nothing. If the sum of the book total is these 3 items with the book itself together, then you would get the sum of all the book sales in this case, and then the sum for all the records in that record set. Like if these were 2, it would show you the 170 and 490, and it would show you the gross that you made on the book. Or the net, pardon me, the net that you made on the book. This would be the gross on the book, 11, and then you made 660 off this for these records that are at current selection. Now let's back up and recap just a little bit so that you're back with me. If I got too fast and went through this too fast, I have Alex, who has 1 book that he bought. I had Michelle, who had 2. If I wanted to see just Michelle's, I would go up, I'd say start the find, and I'd put in the name for Michelle. And I'm lazy, so I just put in Michelle, and I go back, and I say, do the find. And now I have the books. I have 2 found and 1 omitted. And here's how her account would look. So if I wanted to bill her or see if she's been billed and paid and all that kind of stuff and did all the stuff she's supposed to, I would have the book. I'd have the ISBNs of the book. I'd have the names of the book, all the things. And then I would change the status if it needed to be. I would change it to sold or not sold. In this particular case, it was changed in the actual book sale. And a lot of the stuff you would not change here. You would change it actually in the sales screen for the actual book. But I wanted just to show you how you can see the information for the 2 records that are in here. A total of $660 for the net income. The gross was $1148, and there was sales tax of $51. If you have to pay the tax back, like if you sold stuff within your own state, the tax would be in there, and that would be something you'd have to report on your business tax. Shipping sum, all the sum of all the shipping for all the books that were sold to her, and the gross income or subtotal before the actual add-ons would be up there at the top of the record. So I went back through this. I would not be changing things over here. This is only informational. And if I wanted to visit any one of these individual records, I could go in. Now be aware, when you do a find like this and you come back, the records and selection will be limited to Michelle, if that's who I went and looked at. You need to go back up to the Do Action button, come down and say Show All Records right here. When you do that, the current selection of records will be changed, and now all records in the library will be shown. And that's true of list views and whatever. So if I go right now to the books sold list view, that's book in stocks, what happens if I do, say for Michelle in here and then go look at it, it would show that Michelle is the only one currently listed as far as her ID or whatever. And this is the books now that are sold. You can verify in the book list which one we just sold if we did that. If I go back and sold, you can see the books in stock will now show the status of the books sold. So in this case, the book status is sold, and it's sold at $2. So it's a lot of information that is available to you in the book sold stock and also within the actual book sales record. And obviously, if you sold it online, you're going to come back and you're going to edit this screen to show if you paid the fee or not, or you sold the book or not. This has to be edited separately if you're listing books. Okay, so you want to be aware of that. And now obviously in the actual book sales, you're going to see where it was actually sold online because you're going to see a listing sum over here. Okay, and then the status, we didn't show you that. Obviously deposit, sold, return, and so forth. That will fly over to all the records where this relationship is at. And as you're changing the things above on the book data, this you don't edit. It edits itself by whatever changes you make. So for example, if I went up here and changed this to donated, you'd see that it changes donated in here. It's actually sold, so I'm going to say sold, and it changes back to sold. This is just a nice way of saving you time where you're using the book data in different places in the app, and then you have an automatic update if you change the name of the book or something in this area. For example, if you change the price, when you look at the next book sold list, you're going to see what it sold for. So if I went back to books that were sold in the sold list, I can see what they sold for in the past, so I can affect what I would want to sell them in the future. If you sold them or did not sell them and they're constantly available, you probably want to go in and vary this and say, I want to see everything that's available, and I want to go view each record to see if I need to change the value on the sale price. Okay. Now, if you have questions, I really need you to contact us. Support is free, and if you have questions, it's imperative that you call us or chat with us online, or we can't help you. You need to be able to come back and ask questions if you have issues or need any help. Thank you.